Alright, welcome back to my Dark Souls 2, Soul Level 1, Nuking plus 7, Broken Straight Swords, Light Crossbow, no stat boosting gear, sort of walkthrough, or let's just call it a suffer through. In the previous episode we collected the final Great Soul, so now let's make our way down the long road towards Drangleic Castle. Definitely a section where you want to rely on Gower's Ring of Protection. Otherwise you're going to spend a long time trying to get to the next bonfire. Without the right strategies, this part of the playthrough can be a real nightmare. Because even running past enemies is really hard to do. After all, not only are there extra enemies including a very powerful red phantom in front of the castle, but you also need to get the castle gate open, which means activating the golem statues. And once you enter the castle, you're going to get ambushed by not only that red phantom, who will chase you all the way to the bonfire if he wants to, but a whole bunch of regular soldiers. All while you need to defeat the knight blocking the door to the ladder leading to the next bonfire. And you don't have the damage output to kill him quickly enough, even in RTSR range. So Gower's Ring is perhaps not an absolute must to make it through to the next section, under these restrictions, but it is if you want to make it through with your sanity still intact. Okay, time to get into hyper mode, although it's only for a short while, because as far as I know, it's not possible to separate the two petrified mammoth knights. As soon as you hit one, the other unpetrifies as well. Now, they are not that hard to fight against, but two at the same time? Oh, milady. With this little space to work with? Yeah, that's not happening. So what I do is that I slowly grind away the life bar of one, using poison knives and crossbow bolts, until only the other one remains. Now it is a matter of RNG though, whether the one you hit first will actually end up walking in front of the other. Because if it's the other way around, that is a bit inconvenient. And also, as soon as you move too far backwards, they will return to their original position with their shields up. Meaning they will take very little damage at that point. However, once a single one remains, his slow attacks are pretty easy to avoid. Although you do have to take into account that the hitboxes are quite large, as you would expect. Alright, now we need to get the castle door open, but there are two archers in the way, as well as that powerful red phantom that I mentioned earlier. However, if you take out the two archers where they stand, it will be their souls that will fuel the golem statues, which then open the door. We definitely cannot just run inside, because not only will the red phantom chase you, but a large group of soldiers will ambush you as well. So what I do is that I lure the red phantom as far away as I can before reaching the point where he is triggered to return to his original position, and then I make a run for it to enter the castle. However, as you know, there is a petrified knight blocking the way to the door, leading us down to the next bonfire, and our damage output is simply way too low to kill that knight before we get gangbanged from behind. So instead, I will be luring that knight away from the door, and then rely on Gaur's ring to keep me alive when opening the door. And then hopefully I can reach the next bonfire. Well, as long as I can light it, that will be sufficient, because contrary to DS1, merely lighting a bonfire will make it count as the next checkpoint. Getting the next door open actually kinda requires a quick suicide run, because you simply cannot do enough damage to kill one of the stone soldiers before the other one attacks you. And with their spears they have massive reach, and I kinda have barely any at all. Fortunately, they don't follow you back to the bonfire, and as long as you manage to kill one, the door will be opened and will remain open. Just like many other parts of the game, in the previous new game cycles, I actually made it way harder on myself than necessary, because I basically fought every enemy, slowly progressing from bonfire to bonfire, mostly smashing enemies to the ground with the old Knight Hammer, especially a pain with the Nameless Usurper Invader, who can roll out of getting stunned like that, and then after that dying to an archer or something. But you can actually quite easily run through this area with Gaur's ring, and then avoid the archers and the invader by jumping off the stairs towards the hidden bonfire. Of course, you can't sit at it during an invasion, but just like before, it's merely a matter of lighting it. Alright, the double Dragon Rider boss fight. Now on the lower new game cycles with stat boosting gear, you can kill the second one very quickly. Meaning you basically only have to evade the first one a single time and then it's a one-on-one fight from there on. But that's not happening in this situation. The principle is the same though. You bait the red Dragon Rider to knock the black one from his platform, and then you need to evade the red one's attacks while staying close to the black one to kill him as quickly as possible. Fortunately, his bow is not exactly the most ideal weapon for an up-close battle. However, you definitely need some favorable RNG, because as you can see, in this successful attempt, the red Dragon Rider was pretty tame, and that allowed me to get quite quickly rid of his colleague. Of course, after that, it's the exact same fight as the one on Hyde's Tower, with the obvious difference that this one won't decide to go for a swim. Okay, so in order to get the lift to move, we need to kill an enemy in front of the golem statue, but the only available enemies are mannequins. 2 at a time, in fact. So that's a little bit of a huge problem, because I'm still in a dream, Snake Eater. Well, so that's a little bit of a huge problem, because even one-on-one, they are already really dangerous. And apart from just incredible luck, where one just happens to stay back while you kill the other, which is very unlikely to happen, the more likely thing is that you will just end up getting slaughtered instead. And unfortunately, your own death does not count to activate the golem statue. So let's approach this issue from a different angle. Quite literally, in fact. Because what I do is that I lure the mannequins inside the room, then I make a run for the door, and I close it behind me. Then I run all the way around, back to the bonfire, of course not sit at it, up the ladder again, and then I kill one of them with the crossbow from the doorway. And I shoot the other one until he is 1 hit away from dying. Then I jump into the room, get near the statue, and as long as I can hit him once before he has the chance to hit me, that will be enough to activate the statue. It's a bit convoluted, but trust me, it's a less frustrating method than fighting 2 mannequins head on, 2 against 1. Okay, so now we can use the elevator, we need to get a key. But this room has an extra enemy from New Game Plus onwards, and apart from having tons of health, he uses the washing pole. So he has way more reach than I have. But he won't be hanging us out to dry if we simply take the key and leave again, having Gower's ring protect our butts from his pole. Yeah, I cannot emphasize enough how useful that ring is on SL1. Very much an underrated piece of equipment. Okay, the Maronite. Well, the Looking Glass Knight, whatever. But it's a boss that gave me a lot of trouble when practicing with a low damage output on the previous New Game cycle. However, that was mainly because I approached the fight completely the wrong way. I was way too hell-bent on taking him down before he could summon a phantom. And that's simply not going to happen under these restrictions. You simply need to accept that he is going to summon. In fact, trying to prevent that is exactly what will get you killed in the first place. Because you will try to get hits in when it's not even safe to attack. And therefore constantly die before he even has the chance to summon in the first place. But the thing is that the Maronite actually becomes quite a bit less aggressive when the NPC invader is present. Not passive by any means, but definitely far less aggressive. And with the stone ring equipped, you can quite easily stun lock the invader when power stancing. Moreover, if you poison the Maronite, which you can easily do when he is summoning, you will be doing passive damage on him while you can focus on the invader. Meaning that he won't have that much health left when the fight is one-on-one again. And that means that when you poison him again, when he summons for a second time, you can just wait it out, because the invader disappears as soon as the boss is defeated. Alright, after a final trip back to Majula, because Melancha restocks our bright box one last time after defeating the Maronite, it's time for everyone's favorite section of the game. Yeah, Shrine of Amana. Oh boy, so much happiness in one place. Well, visually and thematically it's definitely my favorite part of the game. The atmosphere is great, but suffering through it is not so great. Apart from all the casters and hidden enemies and all, the Archdrakes are incredibly unfair enemies, as they can block your attacks while they are in their own attack animation, which makes no sense at all, because it's not like they are spear hollows who can hide behind their shields while attacking. I mean, these guys don't have the weapon type that can do that. Moreover, they don't even have to be in the right animation to block your attack. Oh, and on top of that, they have hyper armor as well. So let's not fight more of those guys than we absolutely have to. So for the first section at least, I'm going to rely on Gawa's Ring of Protection. And another requirement is the Giant's Ring +2, otherwise you will likely get stun locked when you try to get through the fog wall up ahead, since you don't have iframes during most of that animation after all. So apart from being able to survive some attacks, you need the poise to actually keep the animation going. Fortunately, the two magic users in this area are not casters, they are healers. If they are holding staffs, then they are casters, and if they're not holding anything, they are merely healers. And those are not an immediate threat to you. Oh, and as I said in part 1, for the longest time I never even realized that the second bonfire here existed. So before I knew that, it sure as hell was a long road to traverse from the first bonfire to what actually is the third one. The second section of the Shrine of Amana is probably very boring to watch, because due to all the casters, hidden enemies, a red phantom, archdrakes and having to wade through water, running through this area is simply not an option. So this is going to be slow, inching our way through and relying mostly on the light crossbow. Oh, and by the way, for the first caster, do get behind her, but don't backstab her. Because you don't have iframes during that animation, so if you backstab her, the other one will kill you, as you will be unable to get out of the way of her projectile. Now the easiest way to get through this first section is to jump on that whatchamacallit sticking out of the water and just kill everything you see with the crossbow. Apart from the old knight, you don't need to get near him anyway. Now, having said that, the problem though is that your crossbow has a much shorter range than the other bows have. But this is simply all we can use without using stat boosting gear. So you cannot kill everything you see from the top of that structure, because some of the casters are simply out of your reach. Alright, so now we have to fight, well, what's I guess Mildred with clothes on, I suppose, I don't know. But she's a nightmare to fight because of the water affecting your movement, and the little islands are, little. So it is kind of boring, but to be fair, we would all just want to get through this area and get it over and done with. So it's going to be a matter of luring her back and killing her from on top of that structure. Slow, tedious and boring, but it is the way it's going to be. Okay, we're sort of halfway, but now they're going to be archdrakes that we cannot avoid. One is by himself, marching back and forth, so we're going to lure him to one of those little islands and bait an attack, and after which I can hopefully counterattack without getting myself killed. Now we need to get the caster out of the way. The other two are healers, so we don't actually need to kill those. And as you can see, there are 4 archdrakes. Now, one of them we can lure towards us by himself, but the other 3 are designed to attack in a group. If you aggro one, you aggro all of them. So for them we need to run far away. And hopefully we can separate one from the group so we can have a one-on-one fight. And then after that we need to do it again. And then we can take out the final one. Again, it's pretty tedious, and what's worse, if you die, you will have to do it all over again, starting from the bonfire. Yeah, everyone loves Shrine of Amana. Alright, finally we are at the next bonfire. But now we have to get rid of all these mushroom, insect, things, whatever. And we obviously cannot get close without our equipment breaking. So let's speed this up a bit. Okay, I more or less handled this section as the part before the Skeleton Lords. I equip Gara's ring and make a run for the fork wall. Now there will be an invader behind me, but he will disappear once you enter the boss room. But of course, given that we won't have the right equipment equipped and will likely not be in RTSR range, you can simply do a save quit to start outside of the fork wall without the danger of that invader hitting you from behind when getting ready for the boss fight. Okay, Demon of Song is a very easy fight, unless you get bad RNG. She will likely only do some slow arm attacks or body slam, but there is a small chance that she will do this quick and short jump forward. I honestly don't even know how to react to that. It's fast and comes without warning, so if that happens you are basically screwed. And the other dangerous attack is when she sprays water. Fortunately, she almost never does those attacks in the first place. In fact, I bet that there are people who have done multiple playthroughs and have never even seen those attacks. So basically the only thing to keep in mind is that if she jumps backwards, then you need to close the distance. That way she won't do any charging or long distance attacks in the first place. And when she does the body slam, you can either simply run backwards or to her side. But that last one is a bit more dangerous of course, as it does require stricter timing. But even though the area is very large, if you run backwards several times, you might be too close to the wall without even realizing it. It also helps to lock on right before you attack, so you can be pretty sure that you actually hit the face itself, instead of accidentally hitting the frog part right below her face and bouncing off. Which can still happen, but it does help out. Finally, even though the wiki says that her weakness is lightning, her actual weakness is dark damage. Not a huge difference, but she definitely has lower dark defenses. Ironically, the knight in front of this door is more dangerous than the Demon of Song. The sword-wielding versions aren't a big deal, but the spear ones are like spear hollows. Their stab attacks are very hard to avoid, and there isn't that much room to fight them in the first place. Moreover, this one is designed to not stray too far from the door, so you cannot really lure him away, other than just enough to at least attack him from behind. At the start of the Undead Crypt, we have the exact same type of knight in our way again. Fortunately though, this time we have much more room to avoid him. Unless some stupid pot is blocking our way. God damn it. Okay, this time press F for pot and then trying to fight the knight. The interesting thing about this torch hollow is that he's actually designed to follow you, like your own personal guide through this dark area. I kinda expect though that this is a remnant from early development, because I can't say that I really see much benefit to it. Sure, it's dark, but it's not dark enough that you literally cannot see where you're going. Moreover, avoiding all the projectiles in this area means moving a lot faster than this little guy can. Okay, the next section is rather risky. First of all, getting past the rocks and not accidentally hitting a bell. Therefore, I switch to bare hands and just punch the living fuck out of solid rock, because that attack goes straight forward rather than the sweeping motion of the sword. But up ahead we'll get invaded by the Nameless Usurper. And although you can run past her, there are two of those giant double shield guys blocking our way. However, you can actually squeeze yourself in between them the moment they stand up to attack you. But you don't exactly have that much time to spare with the invader on your tail. Right before Velstad is something you might not even know. As you do know, when you approach the fog wall you hear a bell ringing and all those ghosts appear. However, you can prevent this from happening, because underneath the stairs is where that bell is located. And there are 3 hollows that can ring it. One is directly next to it. When you kill that one, from the left side another one will approach the bell. And after you kill that one, directly next to the bell, one final hollow will emerge from the ground. Killing that one prevents the bell from being rung altogether. Of course, you do have to make sure that you don't accidentally ring it yourself when trying to kill the final hollow. Alright, Velstad is the final boss of this episode, and he's actually way more difficult than you might expect. In fact, even with stat boosting gear, with 20 ADP, it's still tough to avoid taking a hit. Not because his moveset is difficult, in fact it's very simplistic, but the hitboxes are simply very large. So with 6 ADP you don't have enough iframes, and with stat boosting gear you are very heavy and you can only roll a short distance, so you'll run out of iframes before exiting the hitbox. In fact, this hammer even has a lingering hitbox, so when he stabs forward you can run into his hammer and die after the attack comes out, like you bump your head or something. So the way I handle this fight is by not dodging through his attacks at all, unless I absolutely have no choice. In other words, moving back and forth. Moreover, I primarily rely on poison damage, not merely to do damage while I'm trying to stay away from him, but also because when his second phase starts, his defenses increase significantly, lowering your already low damage output even further. However, poison damage stays the same at a steady 15, regardless of what phase he is in. Also, staying away from him is really helpful when he enters third phase, where he shoots the dark projectiles from his hammer, because those are very easy to avoid by simply getting behind him. So that's the perfect opportunity to get some attacks in. And if you stay close to him, he is far less likely to do that move. And there we have the King's Ring. So, in the next episode, we have the ability to finish the playthrough. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, check out my other videos, and of course, stay tuned for the final episode.